Forbes 40 Under 40 had just featured me as the marketing prodigy who transformed struggling brands into gold. My TED talk about digital innovation had surpassed 2 million views. I had everything society told me I should want: the corner office, the 7-figure salary, the penthouse apartment with views of Puget Sound. That morning, I sold it all for 98 cents on the dollar and disappeared. My name is Elizabeth Chen, and this is the story of how I died. At least, how Elizabeth Chen, marketing director and corporate rising star, ceased to exist. What emerged from that death was something far more real than the carefully curated image I'd spent decades building. The email that changed everything arrived at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in September. I was still at my desk, preparing for a board meeting where I would present our latest marketing strategy. The sender was unknown, but the subject line made my blood run cold. Your father's last words. My father had died 15 years ago, or at least that's what my mother told me. Heart attack in his sleep, she said. Clean, quick, painless. We'd held a closed casket funeral. I delivered a eulogy about his dedication to family and success. Words that felt hollow even as I spoke them. The email contained 3 things: a video file, a series of coordinates, and a message that read simply, "He tried to warn you too." As morning light spilled across the cabin's worn wooden floors, I sat down to write this story. 1 year had passed since I'd seen my face on that Seattle billboard. My hands, once manicured and soft, now bore calluses from chopping wood and tending gardens. The designer clothes had been replaced by practical layers, the sleek corporate hairstyle grown out into natural waves. The woman who stood on that billboard no longer existed. In her place was someone stronger, more authentic, more alive. I had disappeared, yes, but only to find myself. And that was worth more than everything I'd left behind. The video of my father haunted me during those first weeks in Wolf Creek. His gaunt face and haunted eyes were so different from the polished executive I remembered. In the recording, he sat in what I now recognized as this very cabin, sunlight streaming through the windows behind him as he spoke about the emptiness of success without purpose. I spent my days learning the rhythms of this new life. Mary, the elderly waitress from the diner, turned out to be a master gardener. She taught me how to coax vegetables from the rocky Montana soil, her weathered hands guiding mine as we planted seedlings in the spring. Tom, a former environmental lawyer who'd made his own escape from corporate life years ago, showed me how to maintain the solar panels and generator that powered the cabin. The town itself became my classroom. These people, who might have seemed simple to my former self, possessed knowledge and skills that no MBA program could teach. They understood the difference between making a living and making a life. Each day brought new lessons in both practical skills and deeper wisdom. I found my father's journals in a locked chest beneath the cabin's floorboards. The combination was my birthday. He'd wanted me to find them. The pages chronicled his journey from corporate success to spiritual awakening, from marketing executive to seeker of truth. He wrote about the toll his work had taken on his soul, how each successful campaign felt like another brick in a wall between himself and authenticity. The greatest illusion, he wrote, is not that we can buy happiness, but that we can sell it to others without losing our own. His words resonated deeply. How many times had I crafted campaigns designed to make people feel incomplete without our products? How many millions had I spent convincing people that happiness came with a price tag? The irony was that I'd been my own best customer, filling my life with expensive things that never quite filled the void inside. Winter arrived with a ferocity I'd never experienced in Seattle. The town taught me another lesson then: the importance of community. Neighbors checked on each other during storms, shared supplies, and gathered for weekly dinners where stories and laughter warmed us more than the hearty food. I learned that true security came not from a hefty bank account, but from being part of something larger than yourself. As snow blanketed the landscape, I began receiving emails from people who'd read about my disappearance in the business press. Some were curious, others critical, but many expressed a yearning for their own escape. A young investment banker wrote about feeling trapped in a golden cage of success. A marketing executive confessed to crying in her Tesla every morning before work. A tech entrepreneur admitted that his billion-dollar valuation felt meaningless. Their messages stirred something in me. I recognized their pain, their longing for authenticity in a world of artificial achievements. Using the cabin's satellite internet connection, I started a blog called Finding Your Way Back. I shared my journey, not as a blueprint, but as a possibility. I wrote about the challenges and rewards of choosing a different path, about rediscovering what truly matters. The blog grew slowly at first, then faster as readers shared their own stories. A community formed, people supporting each other in their journeys toward more authentic lives. Some sold everything like I had. Others made smaller changes, finding ways to align their work with their values. Each story added another thread to a tapestry of transformation. Spring brought unexpected visitors to Wolf Creek. A producer from a major network had found my blog and wanted to do a feature story on the corporate runaway, as they dubbed me. I declined politely but firmly. My journey wasn't meant to be another commodity for consumption, another story to sell alongside weight loss miracles and get-rich-quick schemes. Instead, I focused on deepening my connections within the community I'd helped create. The blog evolved into a platform where people could share resources and support each other. We organized small gatherings in different cities where members could meet and discuss their transitions. These weren't networking events or professional conferences. They were honest conversations about fear, courage, and the challenge of building an authentic life. My mother's email arrived on a warm June morning. I hadn't spoken to her since leaving Seattle, though I'd sent occasional messages letting her know I was safe. Her words surprised me. "I need to tell you the truth about your father." We met at a small cafe in Missoula, neutral ground. She looked older than I remembered, or perhaps I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. She brought a box of letters, correspondence between her and my father from the years after he disappeared. "He never stopped loving us," she said, pushing the box across the table. "But he couldn't continue living a life that was destroying his soul." I was too afraid to understand then. Maybe I am only beginning to understand now. The letters revealed a side of my father I'd never known. He wrote about finding peace in simplicity, about rediscovering joy in small moments. He described helping others who, like him, had lost their way in pursuit of success. Some of the postmarks were from places I'd never heard of, small towns across the country where he'd left his mark. My mother and I talked for hours. She spoke about her own struggles with maintaining appearances, about the pressure of being the perfect corporate wife and mother. "Your father's disappearance shamed me at first," she admitted. "Now I see it was an act of courage." As summer turned to fall, the blog community continued to grow. We created a mentorship program, pairing people who had already made their transitions with those just beginning their journeys. I found myself spending more time counseling others, sharing not just my experience but the collective wisdom of our growing network. One story particularly touched me. A young executive who'd read my blog and recognized herself in my words. She'd been on the verge of suicide, believing she was trapped in her high-powered career. Through our community, she found the courage to make changes, to choose a different path. Her message of gratitude reminded me why I'd started sharing my story in the first place. The mystery of my father's current whereabouts remained unsolved, but I come to peace with that. His purpose hadn't been to wait for me here, but to leave breadcrumbs that would help me find my own way. The cabin, the letters, the community he'd touched. These were his real legacy. 2 years after leaving Seattle, I stood on the cabin's porch watching an autumn sunset paint the sky in colors no marketing campaign could capture. My laptop sat open on the handmade desk inside, displaying messages from community members sharing their own stories of transformation. The blog had evolved into a movement, but one that grew organically, like the vegetables in my garden, nourished by authenticity rather than artificial growth metrics. I learned that disappearing wasn't about running away. It was about finding the courage to be truly present. The skills I developed in my corporate life found new purpose in helping others navigate their own transitions. My understanding of human psychology, once used to drive consumer behavior, now served to support people in reconnecting with their authentic selves. The biggest lesson, though, came from the town itself. These people, who had seemed so foreign to my former self, taught me that community isn't built on transactions but on trust. Success isn't measured by what you accumulate but by what you contribute. Purpose isn't found in grand achievements but in daily acts of genuine connection. Last week, I received another email from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "Proud of you, Elizabeth." There was no video this time, just coordinates to a small town in Oregon and a simple message, "For when you're ready to learn the next lesson." I smiled, saving the coordinates but feeling no urgency to follow them. My father had given me what I needed most, not answers, but the courage to ask better questions. The path forward would reveal itself when the time was right. For now, I had work to do here. Real work, soul work. Tomorrow, I would host another gathering for local community members. We would share meals, stories, and the kind of honest conversations that never happened in corporate boardrooms. Some would stay in Wolf Creek for a few days, learning the basics of self-sufficiency. Others would return to their lives carrying seeds of change to plant in their own communities. The woman on the Seattle billboard felt like a character in someone else's story now. Her achievements, once so important, had become simple historical facts, neither proud nor shameful. They were just steps on a longer journey, one that had led me here, to this porch, this sunset, this moment of complete presence. My phone buzzed. A text from Mary at the diner. Frost warning tonight. Don't forget to cover the late tomatoes. I smiled, remembering how foreign such concerns would have seemed to my former self. Now they were part of the rhythm of a life lived in harmony with something larger than quarterly reports and market shares. Tomorrow I would wake before dawn, tend to my garden, and open my laptop to connect with our growing community. I would share not strategies for escape, but tools for transformation. The path I found wasn't about running away from success, but about redefining it on more human terms. As darkness settled over the valley, I thought about all the people still trapped in lives that looked perfect from the outside. Some would find their way here, to this community of seekers and finders. Others would create their own paths to authenticity. The important thing was that they knew it was possible, that there were alternatives to the glossy, empty success that had nearly consumed me. I am no longer the woman whose face graced a Seattle billboard. I am something more complex, more real, more fully human. My disappearance wasn't an ending but a beginning, not just for me, but for all those who would follow, seeking their own way back to authenticity. And that journey, I've learned, is worth more than all the success in the world.